It's time to cancel Justin Trudeau. He's undoubtedly the worst prime minister in history and should not be in power. But before I go on, I should preface, I don't believe in cancel culture and I don't believe in canceling people. But if we're going to live in a society where Dr. Seuss books are banned and people are losing their position for merely stating we don't live in a racist country, then Justin Trudeau should not only be fair game, he should be at the top of the cancellation list. Now you may be asking yourself, what has Justin Trudeau done to deserve to be cancelled? Surely we should read out his crimes before we send him to the proverbial guillotine. Well, don't you worry. I'm going to walk you through why Justin Trudeau should be cancelled in hopefully 10 minutes or less. I'm Angelo and this is Cancel This. While browsing through Twitter today, I saw that Canada has hit a new milestone, but before you get too excited, I have to tell you it's not a good one. Canada has now surpassed countries like Greece in our debt. This is horrifying, but it's not entirely shocking. Justin Trudeau has been spending our money like a rich kid with daddy's credit card, except in this case, it's our credit card. As someone who grew up in Greece, I experienced the repercussions of austerity and a fiscally irresponsible government, and I'm now here to tell you this alone should be enough to cancel Justin Trudeau. But there's so much more. Without getting too much into the weeds, here's a refresher on almost everything wrong with our drama teacher prime minister. Let's start with what's going on right now. While the rest of the world is receiving vaccines for their vulnerable population, Justin Trudeau has botched the vaccine rollout. This is due to the fact that he cut a shady deal with a Chinese company. This also means that while countless countries begin to reopen, Canada is going to stay in lockdown, leading to countless families losing their jobs and livelihoods. In addition, many of the vaccines we do have, we've poached from poor countries. So much for being woke there, Justin. Now, you may have heard me mention China, so let's talk about that. While 2 Canadian citizens sit as hostages of this dictatorship, Justin Trudeau continues to cozy up with it. While Uighurs are being exterminated from existence, Justin Trudeau doesn't even bother to show up to a vote declaring this a genocide. He is completely subservient to a foreign dictatorship and embarrasses Canada on the global stage. Speaking of the global stage, Justin Trudeau has made Canada the laughingstock of the world. You may remember the disastrous India trip where Justin dressed up in traditional wedding garments and danced around like an idiot, all while also whining and dining an actual terrorist. But we can't forget that Justin really does want to be a big shot globally. He made fun of Stephen Harper for failing to win that UN seat back in the day. But when elected, he spent years sending our tax dollars overseas trying to buy votes. In the end, Justin Trudeau lost the vote for his UN seat, and he did so by more votes than Stephen Harper. But let's reel things back to home a tiny bit. You may know our glorious Prime Minister has not 1, not 2, but 3 ethics violations. That's more than any other Prime Minister in history. So how has Justin Trudeau been unethical, you may ask? Well, let's start from the beginning. In December of 2017, Justin took a well-deserved vacation to Aga Khan's private island where he sipped on champagne and rode helicopters all day. The issue is, of course, that his good old friend Aga Khan has a foundation to lobby the government and has coincidentally received tens of millions of dollars. That's strike 1. SNC-Lavalin is a liberal-connected firm in Quebec and has been embroiled in corruption allegations involving the bribery of Libyan officials. The firm tried to lobby the government to get out of trouble, but public prosecutors said no, and they would have to stand trial. This is when Justin Trudeau got involved to try and save his elite friends. He tried to undermine then Minister of Justice and Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould, and inevitably forced this woman of color out of her position. That's strike 2. Now Justin faces his 3rd conflict of interest during the pandemic. He tried to give $912 million to his friends, the Kielburger brothers, owners of the We charity. You see, the pandemic has been very profitable for Justin and his friends, and he seized on that opportunity to fund an organization which has employed his mother and his brother. That's strike 3. You know, it seems like cancel culture only seems to actually affect conservatives. It's almost like cancel culture is part of a highly coordinated media structure that is ideologically possessed and willing to use their platform to create manufactured outrage about Aaron O'Toole making a joke about an outhouse. Justin Trudeau has been accused of groping a woman. If that was a conservative, they would be canceled. Justin Trudeau has also worn blackface literally an uncountable amount of times. If that was a conservative, they would be canceled. In fact, so many of the previously mentioned scandals, if it were a conservative prime minister, if he was guilty of even one of them, he would be canceled. So why is it that Justin Trudeau and the left are seemingly Teflon when it comes to getting canceled? I think it's because cancel culture in itself is manufactured and weaponized. The means by which someone gets canceled is based on the perceived public outrage of their sins. To this end, we live in a country where the mainstream media does not do their own due diligence and apathy ensues. So please share this podcast. Why? Because apathy fosters an environment in which corruption thrives and accountability is absent. To some of you, I may easily come off as a highly partisan commentator who has a beef with Justin Trudeau. But to that I say this, please engage. Engage in your community, engage in the news, and go past the headlines, go past the front page. Dig deeper, ask questions. I think you'll be surprised by what you find. I know I was. It's time we cancel Justin Trudeau. And until next time, I'm Angelo, and this is Cancel This.